World Qualifier. LNG on the blue side, EDG on red, and Kitty. I want you to walk me through because we've already seen LNG's drafting yesterday, and we kind of pulled out a little bit of their priorities.
Yeah, the Maokai's already gone, so that makes me curious on which team gets the SuzhouLNG first. But it does seem like LNG, they are going to secure themselves something like the Kai'Sa, as the Xayah did get taken away. And we did see that from the LNG versus JDG series, this Xayah pick was first pick on the side of blue.
Okay, well, with the Kai'Sa getting locked in on the other side, Tristana's also something that we saw yesterday from Scout Kitty. Also, Gala picking up an MVP, so it's also a nice takeaway here by EDG, considering that it's such a good flex that LNG have utilized before. But I want to know what else. What do you pair with this? Is it about getting a support or jungle now?
TJ can go either way. He can probably go for an Ivan, which he has into the playoffs, but for safety measures, the SuzhouLNG would work beautifully alongside Ala's champion pool, where you still have champions like the, it's going to be the Ivan lock-in, where potentially a double AD carry composition coming out of EDG as well, but that makes me worried because when EDG drops their AD carry priority towards that 4th and 5th, we usually see Uzi picking up something creative like the Lucian and Braum, which we saw in the playoffs.
But it is the style that they play towards. Again, the pick priority, the counter pick priority, therefore, of EDG is quite high. As on the other side, LNG are just doing more of what they did yesterday. One, not getting the Kai'Sa, but on the other hand, at least getting that Rel, the Azir that we know Scout is so proficient with.
Yeah, and I looked at his career history. This is going to be his 97th Azir game in his entire career competitive history, I suppose. But that Rel getting locked in does mean that Tarzan can also flex it towards the jungle, as it does provide great engage for the side of LNG, and they can save for something like the Braum towards that bottom lane that can allow Gala to scale as that AP Kai'Sa to the 3-item spike. But now the first 3 champions have already been locked in for both LNG and EDG. Top laners are still up and open, where Zika and Ala is going to be a very crucial matchup coming into today. And with Ala having that counter pick, it's going to be a little bit scary for Zika, because I feel like when Zika doesn't have a winning lane, he does show a bit of inconsistency at times.
I mean, the K'Sante team fighting play was good yesterday, but you're right, there were other moments where you're like, well, 369 is getting a chance in the series. With Ala, it's a different story. This is a carry-style top laner, as you were saying. Jax might be gone, but his champion pool is diverse with things like the Renekton and even the Poppy that we saw utilized by Top Esports yesterday as well. Kitty, as we progress, 80 carries taken off by LNG, but EDG's side, it's that engage for Hung that they want to make sure is not in his hands.
Yep, supports are going to be banned out by EDG, but we still have champions like the Braum if you do want to go for a bit more safety. And alongside the Azir, a great disengage, but that's also going to be the SuzhouLNG taken away from Tarzan. I'm going to assume the Rel is going to be flexed towards the jungle, and Zika will look for something like the K'Sante, which will be a great blind, but Ala still has something like the Gwen that can make up for that lack of AP for the side of EDG.
That's a good one. I mean, again, the Gwen was talked about, you know, behind the scenes, at least from our side. As something that could be that 5th and final pick if they go that way. Poppy now taken off the board, though, from EDG. Note that EDG put their stocks in 2 different cards. It was support, now jungle, just in case. Again, they will take that Rel with the Kai'Sa matchup, even against the Alistar. Kitty, let's just see, because again, Uzi has been that last counter pick so many times. No way! No way! The crowd was baited in. They're here for Uzi. They're going to get the Zeri. What a cheeky devil. He's laughing about it. Oh, Uzi, you're a tease.
That does mean this is going to be Uzi's first Zeri game in the summer playoffs. I'm going to be very excited to see how he proceeds into this Kai'Sa matchup towards that bottom lane. So that's going to be the K'Sante blind lock-in, I'm assuming, for the side of LNG. And now they're going to look for a counter for the bottom lane 2v2. Most likely something like the Braum or the Rakan can also work, as you do have a lot of great gap closing that can work alongside the Rel jungle.
And it was something that was taken away quite a lot yesterday, specifically by LNG, going up against Missing. So I feel like it's interesting to note that here, this Rakan finally going to see the light of day. We know where it's going now, or rather where the Rel's going. But what's the final answer for Ala? We hyped up the Gwen, Kitty. You utilized that before. Kennen into this comp. We've got a lot of hard engage from LNG. If this gets locked in, which it does, Kitty, I have a lot of questions. What is the goal here for EDG?
I honestly am a bit on and off with Ala picking this Kennen in particular, but that's because I feel like Ala, he's such a great laner when it comes to a Kennen versus K'Sante matchup, but sometimes when it comes to the later stages of the game, he does drop the ball. But overall, for EDG's composition, they have a lot of great damage. You have a Kennen, you have Tristana, Zeri as well, which will require scaling. And of course, alongside the Ivan, I mean, you just have great peel, but the only engage, or at least the only front line that EDG can rely on one is going to be Mako, and Mako can't get behind in the bottom lane 2v2.
It's an interesting draft from EDG. At the very least, on the other side, Kitty, LNG are showing up what 13-13 really is all about, right? The rel into the jungle. We've got some great engage on someone like Hung as well, who's been really pivotal to some of the successful games. More importantly, Scout on his champion in the Azir, I think kind of defines where LNG are approaching for game number 1.
Yeah, Azir versus Tristana has been a very popular matchup that we've been seeing in the playoffs, and usually the playoff, or at least the matchup plays alongside Tristana being extremely aggressive to shut down the Azir as much as she can in that early stage of the game, so Azir doesn't get pushed. But once those items come online, the Void Staff, the Tristana no longer has the tool to really jump in, so they have to play very patiently. But this time around, Zika on the Cassante once again, he did perform in the previous series up against JDG in the first 3 games, so I'm not too worried about there. But LNG in general, I feel like their jungler does play around the bottom side quite a lot more, and considering the fact that EDG, they protect the president, they protect Uzi, it's going to be absolute bloodshed towards that bottom 4v4.
I mean, I hope so. Again, this matchup, I've been looking forward to it personally because not just seeing Uzi on stage, but seeing Gala versus the old RNG legacy AD carry. I use the Golden God versus the Golden Boy or the Golden Child on the other side. It really feels like that bottom lane matchup is exciting and rife with story. But remember, it's Arla versus his old organization on LNG. It's Scout versus his legacy org, the only team he's ever been with in the LPL in Edward Gaming. And for a spot at Worlds for the 3rd seed to represent the region, we're going to find out if LNG, with all the experience in best of 5s, leads up to success in this point, or if they'll have to fight for 4th seed, or if EDG can bring themselves back to Worlds for the 3rd time in a row. 2021, 2022, now is it 2023? Questions will be answered in our 3rd seed qualifier here in Xi'an. Holy crap.
Hysterics, the crowd in Xi'an for tonight is absolutely insane as we have the flags of EDG and LNG being held around the arena. But as we enter into game 1, EDG trying to reignite the glory in the LP and attempt to reach the heights of 2021 when they did win Worlds. While LNG, they've been so close yet so far, 1 game away from being 1st seed as the LPL representative at World stage for 2023. But every single time they've overcome the obstacle, and now they have 1 last chance.
It's funny to me, Finals MVP and Scout on the other side of the rift right now. Again, changing up his dynamics, changing up his environment, I should say, and leaving EDG. Remember that guy was on the team for 6 years after leaving SKT as a trainee, after leaving behind Faker, where he didn't really get an opportunity in the LCK, but he still studied under him. And so Scout has made a legacy on this team, but again, changing faces is such a big deal. Now for Kitty, I need to ask you a little bit more about this comp on LNG side. I know we talked about EDG and you said there's high damage output. Run me through LNG here because it seems a little bit straightforward, a little bit more front to back, and I want more of an insight.
My first instinct while looking at LNG's overall composition is that Hung decided to take the exhaust, and that's obviously for the opposing cannon, right? But LNG, with this composition getting locked in, the Azir and the Kai'Sa, they would love to work towards the late game where they can outrange the enemy team. If Gala does go the static Shiv build, as he does have the lethal tempo, but of course Scout. I feel like when LNG plays around Scout, they are so great when given disengage tools, and that works perfectly into EDG's composition.
If it comes out for the meantime though, Gala and Mako headed off as Mako just gets pushed back, and Gala and Hung very healthy, burning the Ghost though to get that trade.
But it is going to be the Ghost taken away from Gala as both junglers start towards the top side, but personally I think the Rel does clear just a little bit faster compared to the Ivan on the opposing side, so it really is going to be dependent on if Tarzan decides to make a bottom lane visit at that level 3, because that's where Rel really shines when he does take something like that Hex Flash.
You were telling me, I mean, again, LNG, especially in that last series we saw yesterday, the grand finals against JDG, we saw a lot of bot side priority from Tarzan. We saw a lot of focus down there for Hung and Gala. So again, we're just asking if trends are going to repeat as Hung is making a mid lane gank. Very early here, looking for maybe a flash. Going to be spotted out though. Good little Scry's bloom from Jeje. We'll see him as he rotates back. Jeje trying to blind this. He actually gets it. All right, well,
thanks for the free ride, I guess. I mean, JJ just went over the wall, but LNG Gala finding a cheater recall and getting that extra call into his pockets allows Hung to put a bit of extra pressure towards that mid lane, but luckily it was countered by JJ as both junglers are approaching towards that river, but if JJ wants to contest this, his bottom lane isn't here.
Level 4 for both junglers, though. Hung has taken a bit of damage on the entrance here as he once again, speaking of entrance, takes it on the way out. Tarzan just going to get bottom side scuttle. Pings go up top side. JJ looks to trade here. And the action stops for now. Again, what we know about LNG, Kitty, is we know this is not the fastest team in League of Legends. We know that for the LPL, especially with all the other playoff teams we had, this team likes to pace out the early game. As we even saw yesterday against JDG, I wouldn't say EDG are the fastest team either, Kitty. As this team, we know, is a great 5v5 in the league and also wants to pace their way towards the late game.
Yeah, we have EDG and LNG, honestly, two of the slowest teams we have in the playoffs. But JJ, he is looking for something in the top lane, does get spotted.
Maybe breaking the chain. This could be a fast-paced play instead. Zerka in trouble, flashes away the root caller, not connecting. But at least getting that summoner as JJ now on the board.
But the wave is terrible for Zuka to come back. We need Tarzan to walk towards that top side and really bail Zuka out if he does want another way to really fix this lane up, as he does have to use the TP.
Yeah.
Tarzan's around the mid lane. Fofo is extremely low.
You're right, though. Again, wave state for top side. Absolutely horrendous. Look at the big wave. Zuka's going to have to walk up to this. Arla, 3 minions of his own. And you can see JJ thinking about making that path as well with Krugs up and available here. Wave eventually crashes though, Kitty, which is good news. The scout gets all in. Fofo going to get a full-on trade here. And good stuff. Accrued revenge considering what we just saw on our screen moments ago.
LNG, that does mean both their solo laners no longer having that TP available with the dragon up and coming up. Well, it is already up, and it is going to be the Hex Dragon as well, but it is still going to be about how this game plays out throughout the bottom side, as I feel like both LNG and EDG, they prioritize dragon stacking so much, but when you consider EDG having a Tristan in the mid lane, they would love to have something like the Rift Herald that will get tower platings into Fofo's pockets and getting that gold online so she can get something like the Static Shiv, which they are building towards.
We did see it in the pre-segment as well from Mazel and Imera talking a little bit about EDG in playoffs, second most dragon stacking in the league actually. So again, just kind of shows you how they utilize that bot lane pressure with Scout now with level 6, Fofo. He's waiting for the buffer of the jump, and it's done nicely. Very well done from Fofo as he meets with his predecessor in Scout.
A huge chunk coming out of the LNG mid laner, though. With the Rift Herald spawning in 2 minutes, not too much action going to be happening towards that top side, but that does allow Scout to regain authority in this mid lane, as we do have level 6s coming online. Tarzan is still level 5.
How does Bot get out? I mean, we have flashes available, but Kitty, both of them might be burning an instant as Mako is exhausted immediately. There's his exit, but as he flashes, he's trying to buy time, save his 80 carry. First blood already given over to Gala as Uzi is still running forward onto Hung. Flash is burnt. Just when you lost your support, Uzi still feels confident enough.
Mako ran the wrong way. You saw JJ coming through lane, but Mako decided to go towards the river. I think that could have been salvaged, but unfortunately, the decision-making wasn't there. But now LNG picking up that first blood. We do have a wave slowly pushing in, though. Potentially look to zone Gala out from some minions.
I love JJ's being a pain in the meantime, at least giving coverage to Uzi. As you said, zoning Gala out seems to be the priority as Uzi's looking for the first turret plating, despite what just happened. As Uzi does find it, he takes a turret shot on the way out. But remember, even with that golden pocket, Kitty, Gala got first blood on his Kai'Sa. And I'm sure a Sheen or any other caster of the LPL, any fan, any co-streamer, anyone's mum or dad could tell you, Gala is big on this pick.
And that's why you see JJ consistently hovering towards his bottom side. Mistakes like these can't happen again. Dragon now is up and available. Hung's caught out.
Remember, it is a Rakan. He has a way of getting out. As JJ's like, nah, man, I'm still going back. Forget about it. So Hung just walks away with his life. And Gala's now going to get his reset. Kitty, replay time, though. Let's run through what Mako could have done.
We do have JJ still going for his Gromp as the bottom lane does get engaged on. We have the exhaust also getting dropped onto Mako. They were dead set on killing this support, but with the support flashing towards the left side, JJ couldn't really help the Alistar out, and they lose so much tempo from that, and it really affects Uzi's ability to get priority in that bottom lane 2v2.
Imagine being JJ there, like, bro, I would have shielded you. At least we would have had a better chance. That's right. Losing the flash as well. You've got Hex Flash, but still, for Mako, giving away first blood, I think, is the bigger takeaway. Recurve bow, Noon Quiver now picked up. Kitty, we are getting towards that first item. And with Noon Quiver as well, AD Kaiser coming through this game.
Yeah, Kraken Kaiser coming in for game 1 of this best-of-5 series, but we do see LNG already starting up the Rift Herald, so that's going to be denied from Fofo on this Tristana. So I'm getting a little bit worried because I feel like Tristana as a champion, if you don't get early tower plates, it won't be the same compared to something like the Azir in these team fights where he has great disengage and also great range to really DPS.
Well, with the trade-off, at least EDG are going to be pushing some tempo on this bottom side again. We talked about the trend. It's focused around getting early dragons, and they've done exactly that. But they're just going to be channeled out as Scout and Hung hang nearby, zone him off. And Scout has been doing some pretty good trading in this lane, but you still look at the numbers. At least as Mako. Hang on a minute. Is he caught out? He doesn't have his flash available. Burn it in the previous play. Tries to get that trample up as Fofo and Jeje now look to wrap around. But Dragon's already gone. EDG just thinking about what they can find afterwards.
Hung is playing so confidently around this bottom side jungle, not playing alongside Tarzan either as he secures himself that Raptor camp towards the top side. But you see how much pressure they're putting onto this Tristana, so Fofo can't really get that lane party, and that really restricts how Jeje and Mei are going to play.
Oh, it's a bait. Oh, through the Ivan Rush. There's the Emperor's Divide. Scout's going to get out, but with a bit of damage on his head, he now moves to half. Fofo trying to run the all-in, holds onto the ulti himself, but again, that was cheeky, set up by Jeje's brush.
I guess it was an Ignite trade for an Exhaust and Emperor's Divide for the side of LNG, so it did work out in the end as there's no major objectives coming up anytime soon, but it does seem like the mid lane 3v3 is going to be all about that.
It's an all-out angle. Hang on, onto Arla, not against the wall, but he's still there. Slicing Maelstrom in return. Arla using the damn one skin, trying to be a champion, but Zerka won't let him. Still a close encounter as Arla has to trade that ulti himself.
But you do see the CS numbers are going to be favored towards this Kennen matchup as it was the counter pick or the final pick for the side of EDG. But that 1v1 was so close. I did not expect that as Arla had to burn the ultimate, right? So we're going to expect EDG to play towards his bottom side while we wait for that cooldown to come off.
As you said, though, no objectives up, so at the very least, not too much going to be lost unless anything gets forced. As Hung now returns to bot side while Uzi is just soloing out tower plates himself.
Instead of playing towards his bottom side, really interesting, Jeje is going to go towards his top side as Zika's lane is still in a bit of an awkward position where the wave is going to naturally be pushed towards EDG's side, so we'll have to wait and see because Zika just TP back and he's full HP.
At least Jeje's going to get the shove out in the meantime. Zika not going to step up here in the 1v2 as EDG now look at the 2v2 on bot side, but good cutaway. Hung navigating Mako pretty well. And I feel like that's been kind of the story of supports this game where Mako, some of his engages haven't really done too much. And Hung has just been getting away from trouble every time.
Double Storm Rays is picked up for the 80 carries of EDG, so the lane party towards mid and bottom is going to be absolutely insane. And if Tarzan can't really play around the vision as this rel, it's going to be pretty tricky to get his hands onto the opposing carries because you have something like the Alistar and also the Tristana ultimate to provide for that extra disengage. So we'll have to wait and see because we need Hung and Tarzan to really link up and set them up for Gala to pop off on this Kai'Sa.
And Zucker in the meantime at least getting some damage here onto the K'Sante top side. Double plating now picked up, so despite the CS lead, Arla hasn't been able to get the same response out of his own turret. And Kitty, I wanted to bring it back to EDG and what they're kind of trying to do this game, because again, we talked about in pick ban, at least my suspicion was like there's a lot of moving parts in this composition. We don't have a natural frontliner outside of the Alistar who needs a bit of time. Walk me through again what the goal of this team should be when you talked about LNG having good scaling on the other side.
EDG locking in a pretty hard to execute composition in my opinion because you have a lot of source of damage with the cannon.
Wait, hang on, under turret. Kitty,
double knock-up.
Hold on that one for the time being. Onto Mako though, they do get a pretty good trade. However, passive healing exists. Tarzan now moving into position. He has the kinematics available, but will EDG still go for a dive regardless?
The TP is coming out of the mid laner. Scout's here.
Splash away. Uzi gets the ulti off, but he's in a bad spot over the wall. It's Zeri time. A Scout joins in. You said onto his old support. Take the kill. With one kill onto the Azir now, LNG look for a little bit more. Arla, meanwhile, looking for a solo kill on the top side. Zerka one away from a stun. Arla taking way too many shots though, brother. Get out of there. He does and survives, but Zerka one step away from being killed himself too.
A bittersweet trade-off for Mako as he falls in that 1-for-0 trade towards the bottom side, and the kill does get picked up by Scout. So LNG's carries are slowly getting online with the Rift Herald also getting dropped towards that bottom lane. This Kai'Sa is going to be picking up his Kraken Slayer for this upcoming major objective fight, but we'll have to wait and see because this replay from the previous one, I mean, the wave was once again in a very awkward situation where the K'Sante couldn't really get it in, and the flash engage from Arla, no engage engage from the cannon does mean the next Rift Roll fight is going to be a little bit weird for EDG to play out.
Going to be good for LNG though. 2K gold lead here. Scout with Crown of the Shattered Queen. We've also got Radiant Virtue here in Tarzan's inventory. Kraken plus BF Sword. Still very strong Kai'Sa as we'd expect from that first blood. Despite, again, all the turret plating that Uzi's been taking. And Kitty, before we get there, I think now you've got to come back to the point. Tell me what you were going to say about how EDG play out this game.
Yeah, because EDG, if you look at them, they don't lack damage. They are relatively ahead in terms of the cannon and the Tristana, but it does worry me on how they approach these teamfights because all on this cannon, we've seen him do well. Hung's a bit caught out.
I wouldn't look there. I'd look mid. Fofo could be the one to shuffle backwards. He can't buffer it this time. And Scout on his ear, say something more iconic as he looks to get a second kill. But meanwhile, Mako sets it up here with Uzi rolling in. The kill will go over to the cow, but EDG aren't done. Chasing Hung is there while somehow the crowd absolutely loves it. Bit of EDG bias as Fofo gets out.
LNG are the aggressors, but Gala ends up getting shut down with Uzi jumping over the wall, and Fofo with the TP as well does get himself to safety with the second dragon now gonna get started by EDG. I mean, this game, we expected it to be slow, but there are so many skirmishes.
Well, Uzi not getting the kill, that's only a sad thing. Daisy gets into the mix. All right, guys, settle down. It is just an NPC, but Uzi getting first tower plant, okay. They'll return it, and Gold Kitty actually returning to some kind of equilibrium. As I just said, LNG were 2K up about a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, a bit too ambitious from the side of LNG, as I feel like Hung and Gala didn't need to go, and Tarzan's going in.
He is jumping all the way in, but Fofo gets out here on this Tristana. LNG moving towards this Dragon as a four-man unit. Remember, it is a chem tech, so we're going to have a better role for number 3. EDG picked up the first one. Are they going to contest the second?
We don't have the Emperor's Divide for a Scout, though, so Hung needs to play for Peel if they want to win this 4v4. It does seem like EDG, they do give up this priority on the Dragon. Perhaps look for the Rift Trail and take down this mid tower.
Remember, also Uzi without the ult, Fofo without the ult.
Look at Hung.
It changes everything as Hung is looking for an angle himself. Crown going to be blocked here by Scout. Turret also saved in the meanwhile as Fofo and Arla tried for the push.
Hung is just goofing around in the mid lane, right? Putting a ward down and then Hex splashing right in front of EDG. But now LNG securing themselves that second dragon. They are also going to regain control on this top side.
And Kitty, I just want to point out, Arla was seen teleporting to the turret to save bot side tier 1. LNG now moving up to Herald because they know this cannon can't join.
And LNG, I mean, their macro game for the past 3 series has been immaculate.
Hung, is he caught out again? Rakan can just dash away, a battle dance at that over to Gala. Now over the wall, here's the engage. Remember, Arla can't join in. Mako going to be stunned up. A good shattering strike as Herald is ignored for now. Scout starting to poke out as Mako's ulti now down is a big take.
That is going to be one of LNG's huge engage tools gone though, but they do secure themselves this Scuttle Crab towards the top side, but the tier 1 tower in the mid lane, that's what EDG wants. They need to get rid of this to rotate Fofo towards the side lane, and that's where EDG's composition truly comes online.
As Fofo walks up, he'll catch top side for the time being, at least move to that side. Never mind, he takes a blast cone over. Rest of the team's not here yet, but with the rocket jump in his pocket, he'll be comfortable enough to just get back over as LNG return to the scene of the crime in front of this Herald. Will pick it up and get themselves a little bit more map pressure because of it. While EDG trying to make a trade, but hang on, Kitty, that TP from Scout. He's come out of nowhere. Uzi might be caught out. He brings the lightning charge in, but Scout won't let him move. Gala gets the kill number 2. And the angle from that TP, Scout is a legend for it.
And LNG, they get a kill in the mid lane onto Uzi, and they also secure themselves the Rift Herald. I mean, this is the LNG that we saw going against JDG. Being the aggressors in the early game, I feel like they've become such a flexible team from the start of regular split where they really elevated themselves through this macro game. But we'll get a replay of what happened towards that mid lane. It was Hung catching Uzi off guard in this mid lane, whereas also EDG Scout using that TP, and there's no vision whatsoever towards the top or bottom side with the insane flash ultimates coming out of both the, I guess, just the support.
Yep.
The ADC couldn't move.
Shut down over to Gala, by the way. Second kill over to this Kai'Sa, and you do not give Gala Kai'Sa. That is the one golden rule for the golden boy. Gala level 11 here, and Kitty close to picking up that second item on the AD Kai'Sa. Remember, we're going to get some sick team fighting out of him this game, especially with the build path, especially with Scout by his side. Right now, LNG still in a great spot as Scout tries to follow through, but can't catch on to Fofo, even without that ulti available.
We haven't really been seeing JJ and Fofo linking up as this Ivan and Tristana, but, you know, Zuka does secure himself a tier 1 tower in the bottom side. This is going to be a very worrying trend, because if the Tristana doesn't get ahead, it might become a downfall of EDG's overall composition.
Well, as EDG continue trying to group up, remember that Baron's not up for 2 minutes, Dragon in 2 minutes time. That would be number 3 in the game, rather 2 for anyone who picks it up. But Kitty, by that time, the point I bring up is that we should be at 2-item territory. So again, when we talk about EDG having high damage profiles and the fact that it does feel like LNG will get that hard scaling in, especially with how they pursue the team fight, it feels like we need to track those items really importantly and watching how to see how Fofo and Uzi do and where they're at in the next objective.
Yeah, to be fair, both team compositions do scale relatively well into the late game. It is how LNG execute their composition, though, with great dive through the Rakan, through even Gala on this Kai'Sa alongside Tarzan, playing the rel jungle for this game 1. So I feel like Mako on this Alistar, his role, and JJ on this Ivan, they need to peel really, really well for Fofo and Uzi if they want to look for a winning team fight. Well, Ala on this Kennen, he needs to play with the vision and he needs to get waves pushing on the side, so that allows for a flank if they want to look for a winning fight.
And again, flanking angles for the Cannon just seems like everything you need to know to play champion. A teleport almost up and available on that note, Kitty as well. So Ala should be saving it towards this third Dragon, about to come up in 50 seconds. But as LNG move towards topside, they're looking for a pick themselves. Hung on to Mako, or maybe vice versa. Uzi's got the damage out. Hung almost gets beaten out. He has to run so far away with Ignite on his head, and EDG wants some more. Fofo will charge in, get the crown of the Shadow Queen off of Scout. And with Hung being damaged that much, we'll have to see if now EDG just get a free Dragon.
He can't keep getting away with this on this Rakan, but double AD carries. Baron is going to be spawning in 20 seconds as they did force LNG out from this topside jungle, potentially just a tier on top lane at that topside, but that does open up the map a lot more, and I feel like Hung, I mean, that's a TP.
Oh, it is indeed. Fofo in a bit of trouble, but it's Tristana. Rocket jump towards Mako, but Mako's not going to help him. Instead, Tarzan over the wall forces the flash. Now Fofo kiting it back as away. Mako going to be the hero of this play as Uzi helps zone him out, but Gala Hung about to come on in. TP in response. Mako pops the ulti. He's the only tank of the team. And now that LNG are on top of him, he'll drop down to Gala. Another kill for the absolute legend in the bot side. LNG get Herald off the back of it, and that just changes everything.
This is a feels bad game for the support of EDG. Rift Herald also going to get dropped towards his mid lane, and LNG, they are opening up the map for this game 1.
With the Herald, they want to continue on. That's a flash here from Zuka under turret, but it's inner. EDG are going to kite him back a little bit. Some good poke from Fofo. Here's Cassante, though, so he'll survive quite easily as Herald still gets a charge on an inner. And LNG might only move up to about 1,000 gold lead, but are still having control of this map here at the 20-minute mark.
And with Mako dying, LNG, they regained that vision control towards the top side, and because they were able to secure that second Dragon, they stopped the Dragon stacking from EDG, so this Soul isn't going to become a problem until 15 minutes later. So I feel like if LNG, they're creative with it, they can also sneak the Baron with something like the Azir.
Or pretend like they're sneaking it. Onto Mako, he's caught out, no ulti available, and to Gala again. Kitty, Mako dies twice in a row. Now they don't have to pretend like they're sneaking Baron. They're going to start it for real.
Jia, he is making his way here, but he does have the flash. I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to get into the tower.
Zoning onto Arla. This is good from Zerka because he has flash. He has Slicing Maelstrom. Zerka doing everything he has to do here on the Cassante as it's 6k. There's a flash. Tarzan starts to engage with Fofo. Buffers again. EDG kite back with Uzi and Fofo. Damaging at the helm, but Scout flies on in, saves the fight, and gets out on the back end. But Uzi won't let him get away with it. Running through EDG. A powering, but Gala snipes him down. This Kai'Sa is fed.
And EDG successfully diffused the situation with that engage, or at least disengage from Tarzan's initial turnaround as Scout going in, trying to be the hero of the moment, but EDG turning instantly as JJ's Q did connect onto this Azir. But that final Void Seeker from Gala was beautiful.
Again, playing out of his mind on his champion, it feels like, even though he doesn't have the world skin as Kitty. Run me through this Baron.
That does mean Fofo had to use his TP for this upcoming fight, as it was a beautiful timing, like you said, for Fofo to buffer Tarzan's initial engage, and everything dropped onto this Tristana. Honestly, the Tristana lived for a very long time with that reset on the W, but this fadeaway W from Gala was absolutely amazing. But at the end, still a 1-for-1 trade. However, I mean, the only frontline for EDG right now is 1 and 4.
The observers must be EDG fans because they didn't show the fadeaway. They didn't want to show Gala successful. Oh, well, look at the Uzi play, you know. He picked up a kill on the back end, his first of the game here, as he crests over to Navori Quick Blades alongside his mid laner. But EDG, again, losing resources over to Gala. We talked about him a lot in the LNG series, Kitty, yesterday against JDG in the grand finals. There is a reason this man picked up MVP on Tristana, now given over the Kaiser, almost cresting 3 items himself. He is set up to succeed with Scout, who also has been picking up loads of resources.
We are reaching 2-item territory with the Baron up and available for this top side. You see EDG regaining this control, and that's what they need. They need Ala on the flank with the flash available, with the Proto Belt also in the hands of this Kennen. LNG, they need to protect Gala on this Kaiser because currently that's the only consistent damage that they rely on.
Gala poking out, not going to have the same effect as we're used to with the Nash's Tooth, but still enough to be considerate here as Ala thinking about the engage. Yes, flash available. We haven't seen a slicing Maelstrom in a team fight yet, Kitty. It has only been within the lane, so Ala still waiting to pull that trigger.
And they're playing around JJ's bushes for this mid lane, but look at Hung. He's going for a wide flank, or potentially just dropping a ward just to see where EDG's laners are going. But this upcoming Baron is going to be key. Gala picking up the red buff as he is working towards that 3-item. Fofo is alone. He doesn't have the flash.
But again, Tristana, rocket jump means everything as Hung is going to spot the wave channeling in. EDG playing towards the Baron side as Daisy pops out to say good day once again. Zerka, his angle is there, but he doesn't have flash available as Hung is now making the move. In Fog of War, he stands in the mid lane. Look at where he is. This guy, this could change the whole Game 1 environment.
He is so sneaky. Uzi does have that cleanse available, but if he interrupts the jump, I mean, JJ, he is extremely close to this Rakan, but all eyes onto the support of LNG right now.
Now spotted out, Ala going to be zoning off this top side of the red camp as LNG now get priority back towards the river. EDG backing off as inside priority towards mid, Kitty. Also something to mention here.
And because Fofo had to use the TP from the earlier play, he doesn't have that side lane pressure. He's going to be getting chunked out.
Fofo and Uzi standing by themselves. I thought they were separated, but LNG don't pull the trigger. Jeje getting the root down. It might get the gap closed, but as Fofo jumps over, there's still not enough damage. Taken away with a bit of shielding. EDG, again, just toss to and fro, to and fro. That's what this game so far, Kitty, has been about.
But EDG, they do have a Dragon Soul point coming up for them in 50 seconds. However, they need to be careful because they have no vision on the Baron. So LNG, they're once again trying to sneak this away under EDG's noses. We might see that, but Tarzan does get spotted out on a control ward.
But there's no wards in the Baron pit. His teleport's going to be channeling through. Look at the timing. EDG all backed away, Kitty. Ala's bot side. And with a Nazir and a Kaiser, Baron is going to go. Mako too late. No way, Jose, as LNG sneak it from under their thumbs. And the crowd goes absolutely silent.
And the annoying thing is Baron buff recall allows LNG to cheat the tempo and potentially contest for this Dragon as well. But LNG being the situation that they're in right now, they can honestly look for a 5v5, get a potential ace, and end the game with Baron right now as we have 3 items and a stopwatch for Gala for this upcoming team fight.
Band of Dancer just complete, and Kitty, Immortal Shield Bow on the outside for Uzi. So I will say 3 items area of a very different nature as to when she was in hard meta. Is also worth considering, but now with the Baron buff, Gala and Zerka just go towards mid. Look at how spread thin EDG are right now. Hung? He's going to die. Okay, Hung just gives over a kill, but meanwhile LNG are breaking the base.
But they no longer have the exhaust, so Ala has an opportunity to go in here if they want to force the 4v5.
Tarzan zoning off EDG, coming at from a back angle. This could be it. Mako pops him away. Stun turret's out though, and now zone control looks so hard. LNG still standing strong underneath as Tarzan re-engages. Mako again, no good! It's a 3-man! Scout will do the dirty work at the end as Gala looks to clean up against Edward Gaming. They're not even a challenge this game for him.
And this was the team fight that LNG needed, a 4v5 to end of the game, and LNG looking as dominating as ever. This is a convincing showing from this team.
Can they end the game though? Again, Jeje not up for a while. There's the hard engage that we've been waiting to see out of Ala. He finally makes it through, but Carla's still alive, Kitty. That stopwatch you talked about saves the day. Fofo will flash away. There was one next to turret, drops on down, but look at the timers again. Uzi's up in 10 seconds, and LNG have blinking health bars.
Mako is going to be up and available for this though, but Zuka, I mean, he is still going to be 1 HP. I'm not too sure if they can defend this.
This looks so hard. I mean, Fofo is ready to go in. There's a pause. And just as the game looked to be in turmoil, we take a break. We're going to find out what is going on.
Once again, EDG without the flank from the Kennen, you already see that these team fights are near impossible.
Yeah.
And they were so split from that previous fight. You saw Fofo towards the mid lane while the remaining members were towards the jungle. And LNG playing as a 4-man unit with Hung getting caught out from earlier. They just seem like so much more coordinated coming into this game 1.
How crazy is it? Again, I mean, LNG yesterday showed us how clean their macro is. And I mean, I think here again, you know, the Baron take from under the nose of EDG. Again, a lot of the pathing through the early game for Tarzan, a lot of the shadowing. LNG have shown us that they are a little bit slower than LPL teams, or audience out there, excuse me, would expect of an LPL team. But they are very, very smart, to say the least. And I think that's what has gotten this game 1 to this point, Kitty. Some really smart map movements that, again, have led them into the enemy base.
They have very clear decision-making when it comes to these cutthroat, games, because we also had the Tristana getting locked in for Fofo, right? But him struggling to get any side lane towers does mean when it comes to the 3-item territory, unless you're getting an insane reset after getting kills, the Azir with something like the Shadow Crown is going to become a very big pain for EDG to deal with. And once again, Meiko being the only front line for EDG to rely on, it is going to be so important on how he engages these
and it's been important because Meiko hasn't been engaging well. Meiko has been caught out a couple of times, and Kitty, it feels like there's been some kind of disconnect between him and the rest of EDG. As you said, because he's the only tank, because he is the hard engage of the team, how crucial is it that when he gets caught out that EDG can actually make movements otherwise?
You often see EDG having the most successful moments when JJ is on a champion like the SuzhouLNG, which is his most played in the playoffs so far. Also something like the Maokai, where it does act as at least a secondary engage for Meiko to work off, because they do allow, or these champions do allow Ala to play carry top laners like the Jax or the Gwen.
Hello?
As we do come back and
to a pause!
Pause!
Woo! Okay, 3 seconds, never mind. We come out of the set period at least. We're going to dance again. But this time, remember, with the death timers up and available, or rather lack thereof, LNG will have to back away for now. But Kitty, with that push, with that Baron play, 6,000 gold from one smart movement.
Now they're just going to look for the reset and work towards that bottom lane, as we do get a replay of this previous teamfight. 4v5 engage from the side of EDG, but look how separated Fofo is from the remaining team, as EDG or LNG, they just go towards the weaker side as Zuka flashing in Q3 3-man knockup, and this completely won them the team fight where they were so close to ending.
We saw a lot of this yesterday. We talked about Zuka with some of the moments on the Cassante not being as bridged together with the rest of LNG, but those were the moments we remember. Those were the ones that stood out and helped them win games and move to match point against JDG.
And you see Fofo still sitting on not the Lord Dominic's. He's working towards that 3rd item as LNG Gala. He just picked up his 4th, being the GA with the flash available as well. I have no idea how Al is going to be able to burst this person down with the exhaust up as well on Hung.
What a question. I mean, again, with the GA available, Stopwatch already saved the last play and at least saved him from dying. 7-1-3 here on the Kai'Sa. While there's been a great supportive staff, Gala has been reaping the rewards of all the setup here. As now with an inner turret down in the bot side, Baron's done, but LNG are not with a 7,000 gold.
It's just going to be a 4-1 from the side of LNG now, and EDG, they are running out of options. They need to force on the weaker side, potentially pick onto the Cassante, which doesn't have flash right now, because I feel like even if a 4v5, Gala is way too strong right now, but the minions are swarming in.
Fofo at least having the wave clear to stop that, but a super reaches the turret as LNG. Bot inhib turret. Now the new question is Arla thinking about it, but Scout flips back. Fofo's caught out into the Magnet Storm. Scout should not be given his ear, as the other man getting his Forbidden Champion is now firing away onto Meiko. A double over to Gala's Kai'Sa as LNG are pissed off after yesterday. He's aiming down for the Penta. There's 3 who stand in front of the Nexus. As LNG just have to do the dirty work. We've got minions channeling in. 1 Nexus turret. 2 champions that shouldn't be given away. And a team that's mad with how close they came in our grand finals. They'll take game 1 and put EDG in their place.
Absolute decimation from LNG in this game 1. Calm and collected was their game. Gala on the Kai'Sa, given this pick, 9-1. Man was the carry of the moment, and LNG just showing to be the more coordinated team coming into this series for now.
Indeed they were. I mean, again, there were some moments that were back and forth, but Kitty, EDG very quiet, I think, is the main thing to take away as well. While Uzi got quite a lot on the bottom side, their fans were so happy to hear that, oh, Uzi's getting gold. but then it becomes Xi'an Library as soon as EDG start getting beat out in some of these 5v5s, some of these skirmishes as well, where EDG got separated very early on.
Yeah, and that goes back to our point where EDG, they don't really have a clear